Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be chatting in depth about my rebirth through psilocybin mushrooms and essentially what they did for me and how this in fact was the most potent spiritual transformation and experience that I've ever had in my entire life. So I want to go a little bit over the physical side of it and how this all played out and the steps as to I went through to experience this kind of thing. So basically, a personal and close friend of mine was holding a men's retreat and I decided to go along to this men's retreat. It was so much more than a men's retreat. It was more of a ceremony type thing where all the men go to, learn about themselves and, in a sense, transform their lives for the better. So, there's a series of things we went through, like breath work and something called hape, which is like traditionally powdered tobacco that is kind of applicated through the nose, which really grounds you. And then we had the cacao drink, the 100% chocolate, mix it with honey to make a coffee-like kind of brew, but it's so much better than coffee because it doesn't have as much caffeine and it's rich with so many vitamins and minerals and nutrients, so nourishing for the body. It's a heart medicine. And so we had cacao, and then last to finish off the ceremony, we all did the plant medicine, the psilocybin mushrooms. And so this was obviously guided. It was in a safe environment with people we trusted. It was guided by a shamanic figure. We were all comfortable, warm and safe, and it was just in the right environment, which is the most important thing. We were all there to transform for the better, to, as I said, to learn about ourselves and to become the best versions of ourselves through this experience. And so, I was very, apprehensive about this because obviously, you're stepping into the unknown, you're doing something you've never done before, you don't know what it's going to be like. You hear people have not so good experiences on it, we only did a moderate dose, it was only 2 grams. I thought I would reach a point where I would lose touch of reality, but that never happened. That only happens on the really, really big doses. I was always in touch with reality. I always held my 5 senses. And, throughout the 2 to 3 hours, things did become a lot more vibrant and I did feel my emotions more. And, I think it affected my thinking and my thoughts more than it visually affected me, even though things seemed to be glowing and just, just mind blowing, like I was looking at the blanket and the holes in the blanket and then I was held up to the light and I was just looking at the light through the holes and my mind was just like in such a state of wowness, my mind was just blown at how beautiful the light looked. And that's about as far as things, physically got, for me with my 5 senses. And then for my mind, it basically, throughout the 2 hours, I guess my thoughts changed a bit and I felt a lot of different emotions. But it really affected me more the next day. The next day, I just felt reborn. I really did. And the days after, 4 days after, that's where I felt the most effects, because essentially what that whole ceremony did for me, and I think, it was a combination of the breathwork, cacao and the psilocybin mushrooms, but psilocybin mushrooms being the most important part of that. Man, what it did for me was incredible. As I said, it was a full rebirth for me. If I could pinpoint back to the most significant rebirth I've ever had in my life, it would be this, the most potent spiritual experience I've ever had. What it did for me truly is it killed me. It killed my old way of thinking. It killed me psychologically. It killed my old mind. So I was able to be rebirthed into a new mind, into a new mindset, into new ways of thinking, and just looking at life through a totally different perspective, such an upgraded and pure perspective. Essentially, it just lifted so many veils and limited points of view off me to be able to see life from such a different, new, higher perspective. Basically, it pulled me out of my old limited ways of thinking and made me see life more as a whole, from a higher point, from a higher perspective, from a higher point of view. So if you think about it in this kind of way and give it this metaphorical type of viewpoint, imagine like an old Windows computer, like a 998 Windows computer, and that operating system. That's how my mind was. That's how I was operating. And what it did for me is it literally wiped that and implanted like a brand new 2025 iMac computer in my head. That's the kind of shift I had doing this. So keeping in mind, this did happen back in 2018, so it was a few years ago. Ultimately, I would have loved to say my testimony then, through the experience, but I was never into recording myself back in those days, and I kind of see the importance of documenting your journey only now. So I am saying my testimony from years down the track, but I am recording it and saying it to the best of my ability, and I will always remember that it was the biggest shift and biggest transformation from one point to another that I've ever had. I've always had little deaths and rebirths in my life, also known as shifts in perspective, big shifts in perspective. Ultimately, that's what it is. It's like you ascend from one dimension into another. That's almost how it feels like. It's like your way of thinking and perspective has been upgraded that much. It feels like you're living in a whole new dimension of reality. That's kind of the way it feels when you go through a rebirth in life. But this shift back in 2018, this one ceremony was the most significant shift I've ever had in my entire life, and I will remember it for the rest of my life because it was kind of like my ultimate rebirth. That's the power I believe psilocybin mushrooms have. They have the power to upgrade your mind in a way that your mind would never be able to be upgraded without them. And that's not to say each and every person should have this kind of thing, because I believe it's not for each and every person. A lot of people who are fulfilled and already have a purpose in life and are on their correct path in life, if they feel as though they don't need to have this, and they feel as though it won't be beneficial for them, then so be it. That's their reality and that's the truth for them. So those people, mushrooms probably wouldn't be good for, because they believe it wouldn't be good for them. But for most part of humanity, and especially for people struggling with depression, anxiety, no purpose in life, who are have been on antidepressants for X amount of years and they're not working, this is the thing for them. And you can see it throughout so many documentaries and throughout so many studies that psilocybin mushrooms have been the only thing that have been able to help when nothing else has. When everything else has failed, psilocybin mushrooms have been the thing to save lives. And that's the truth of it. That's why I believe it should be shared to the entire world. And each and every person has the right to experience this in a safe environment with a shamanic figure, with someone who can guide them, who has knowledge and experience with it and who can guide them, because 99% of the time the people that go into these ceremonies and take this plant medicine and go in it with an intention, come out with it on the other end a greater, brighter, and a human in which is able to see life from a higher level of consciousness. And in also saying that mushrooms are they're a extremely powerful medicine, and you must respect the medicine. You must do it in the right environment. If you do it in the wrong environment with the wrong people, it's not going to go well for you. They're a powerful medicine that must be respected. If you love it and you respect it, it will love you and it will respect you, and vice versa. So this is the power in magic mushrooms, guys, and psilocybin mushrooms. And they have been given a negative stigma because people haven't used them in the right scenarios with the right people and done them wrong, or done too much at once or whatever, and it has gone horribly wrong for them. And that just shows how powerful they are and why you should not mess with them. But if you do it correctly, and you start off slow, and even microdoses are a very, very beneficial thing. So I'd like to also explain to you what else it did to my mind and my brain. It's almost like I felt new parts of my brain connect that have never been connected before. That's what it did. It just connected so many neural pathways and so many new parts of my brain together. It's like my brain lit up and I was able to see reality from a whole different viewpoint. And that's the beauty in what happened to me, guys. That's the beauty. That's my testimony in how mushrooms are basically not my religion, but my way of life, because they heal me in such a way that I'll never be able to kind of forget about them again, and what they do for me is what nothing else can do for me. And it's done so many great things for me, and I'll be making so many more great videos on all the positive things that they do and they have done for me, and how they work well in conjunction with my life. And so that's kind of the gist of how I was reborn through mushrooms, and how the most significant spiritual upgrade I ever experienced was through psilocybin mushrooms, and implementing them in my life. And I believe my story should be shared to the world. It should be told to the world, because everyone deserves to know how powerful this thing is, and how much of a benefit it can be in their life. So yeah, thanks guys for listening to my little testimony and how this was my rebirth. I appreciate you all, and as humans, we all have a right to know about the things that are going to make us better, stronger, happier people. So as always, guys, big love, and we'll see you on the next one.